For years I've been saying I believe the drill press might be the single most dangerous tool in the workshop. People think I'm kidding, but I'm dead serious, and I'm going to show you why in just a moment. But before I do that, I want to tell you that I've moved this video ahead by several weeks because I just found out that one of my affiliates, MagSwitch, is having a Black Friday sale in a few days, and I wanted to put this video out ahead of time so people can go and look at different items because there's some significant sales coming up, and I'm going to talk more about that at the end of the video. But for right now, let me show you why I think this is such a dangerous tool. So here's the thing with drill presses. They're not very loud, so they're not scary that way. The drills don't spin at a high speed. They don't seem to be, it seems to be pretty easy to use. And many people have been at the point where they're using a little bit larger bit, and maybe they're drilling into some hardwood, or maybe they hit a knot, and as they're drilling, and maybe they've just got one hole to drill, and they're drilling that one hole in a piece of wood or a piece of metal, and that bit grabs the metal or the wood, and it can spin that wood around. And I've heard of people having sprained wrists, sprained fingers, broken fingers, all sorts of cuts and bruises, and that's because in an instant, when the bit grabs metal or wood that you're drilling into, all that happens instantly. And some of the things that can happen, as I said, dull bits, knots, all of those things, and just metal, even just very thin metal, the bit, it's astounding how quickly it wants to grab metal. The easiest and the best thing to do is to have a fence system that's easy and convenient to use, and that can stop a lot of injury on the drill press. Now I'm going to show you just how quickly this can happen, and hopefully I can get this drill bit to grab here, but we'll try it and see. And that's how quickly that can happen. And there's no way that you can hold that. Now the next thing I'm going to do is the same thing, only now I'm going to put a fence, and this is one of the fences I'm going to show you in a minute. I've got another piece of wood here, and I'm just locking this fence down. Now watch this, I'm not even holding it. Watch this. That's how safe it is to use a fence on a drill press. Now you can use clamps, but honestly, they're not very good. And underneath here, there you can see why clamps don't work very well, is because of all the ribbing under there. You can't get a good grip. Now, before we get started, I want to recognize that many of you will have a wooden deck attached to the steel deck of your drill press. And if that's working for you, stick with it. Don't worry about what I say or what I like or what I don't like. If you have something that works for you, stick with it. Don't change just because I say something. Now, I did have one of these years ago, and I tried it for about a month, and I finally took it off. It wasn't working for me for a variety of reasons, and I ended up going to a different system, which is what I'm going to show you today. But it doesn't matter what you use, because what's so important is that you have a fence system on there, and you can use mag switches, you can use clamps, I don't care what you use, as long as you have a fence system on there that's secure, because that's where injury is going to happen on the drill press. So the first system I went to is this one. And all this is a 3/4 inch piece of scrap plywood. We drill a couple of holes in it, just like that, and that's to accommodate these mag switches. And for these, I always use 150s. They're the ones that I prefer, and they just drop in like that. You drill a couple of oblong holes, and they just drop in like that. Now, the way this works is so handy, because you can now set this at any position on your deck, depending on what you're cutting, where it is, how you want to position it. Very easy, and when it's locked on there, it's solid. It's not going to move you'll have to have a really strong drill press and drill to move that because it locks on there. I've never had this fail on me, and I still use it to this day. And it's easy to take off, easy to move around, and of course you need to replace this. You can see that this one's worn out pretty good, and it's probably about time to replace that. And I just put a simple little fence on there. You can see that it's just screwed on, and that has worked marvelous for me for probably the last 15 years. Now, about 3 years ago, I moved to this system. Now, this is the mag switch fence, and you can see that this is a steel fence, and it has the integrated magnets already into it. And it works the same as the first one I just showed you. Again, you can move that around anywhere on the deck of your drill press, lock that down, and it's ready to go. And it's locked on there super firmly. Now, what you do need for this is you'll need a sacrificial platen, and you can see mine needs to be replaced pretty soon here. But this works really well. And one of the reasons that I went to this system is that now I can do some vertical drilling because this fence is a little bit higher, and all I need to do is clamp my wood on there, set that up to where I want to drill holes, and now it's quicker and easier to do that kind of drilling. This fence comes in a couple of sizes. This is the small one because it fits my drill press platen here, but there is a little bit bigger one that has a couple of bigger handles with holes here, and again it's a little bit higher. So that's another option. If that's something that works for you, you can look at that. Now, the most recent introduction from MagTool is this massive hold-down clamping system, and this is the this is the ultimate in hold-down. You can see there's two switches here, but there's actually two switches on the other side as well, and these, of course, are all magnetic switches. So the way this one works, of course, is you switch it there, and the two on the back, and that is super locked down on there. Now, what this is sort of primarily for is for metalworking, and you can see that I have my metal clamp in here, and most people use these for metal, but I also use it for smaller wood pieces sometimes, and there's no real good way of holding these down on the deck of your drill press. But now, because they've got this unit comes with T-bolts like this, and there's some T-slots in here. You can't really see them, but they go into those T-slots, and then you can bolt that down. And when that's bolted down, that is super locked on there. And then again, it's the same system. You can lock that down anywhere and then drill to sort of wherever you want there. Now, if you're a woodworker, you will do some metalworking. And I do more metalworking than I would have expected as a woodworker. We just have to do that from time to time. Now, this kind of a system, when I first saw this, I thought that it had much more potential. So let me show you what you could also do with this. And I've got some other ideas that I'm going to show you on this in the future. But today, let me show you the first thing that I came up with, the reason that I thought this was a super idea. So there's that jig, and I have it attached to the clamping vise, and it's attached, you can see, with T-bolts there and there. So I'm just going to set it up here. I'll put a Forstner bit in, and we'll give it a try. Okay, I've put my jig on the deck here of my drill press, and I've locked it down. I've locked all four of the magnets down. Now remember, this is just a mock-up because it's easier sometimes to make these things than to try and describe them. So what I'm going to do here, I've got a piece of wood and I've got it marked. You can see I've got some lines periodically here, and I have a center line on my jig here, and you might not be able to see it, but it's right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up each one of these lines, which is now sort of lined up with the Forstner bit, and I'm going to roll through and make, like if this was a production and I'd be rolling through drilling holes, In this case, I'm not going to drill through the plywood. I'm just going to make a hole in it so that you can see, because this is just a demonstration of something that somebody may set up to do in some kind of a production. Maybe they're putting dowels into a staircase or something like that, and this might be a way of doing that. So let's get started here. I'm just going to lock this down. That's onto the center there. Just going to lock that down, and let's and there we have 4 holes, all equally spaced. So there's a whole variety of different options that you can use, from a wooden deck for your base of your drill press to all sorts of different magnetic versions. Whatever you use, pick something that's easy, because when it's easy, you'll use it every time. And when you use it, you're going to prevent injuries for yourself or anybody else who's using your drill press. A fence system is a must. And that concludes my video for today. But for those lucky ones of you who stuck around to the bitter end, I want to tell you that the discount that MagSwitch is putting on some of these items are up to 45%. And that's a 35% discount from MagTool, plus a 10% for using my code on there. Now, the details are going to be in the article on Woodwork Web and in the description box below. And it's important that you follow those to get the biggest discount, because there's certain days that there's a better discount, and there's certain codes that you need to use to get all of those discounts. So important that you get that. Also, I did a comprehensive video on MagSwitch items. That video is showing up here. If you haven't seen that, that might help you get a little bit more information on all what this technology is and how to get the best use out of it. I'm Colin Canet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.